The artificial brilliance of Hollywood could sometimes exhaust the soul. It was one of those days. Keanu Reeves, driving aimlessly out of Los Angeles in the late afternoon, felt it more than usual. The void that followed the intense energy of wrapping a film, a schedule usually packed with demands, now felt vast and empty. He craved a connection, something simple, unjudging, far removed from the constant glare of fame. Perhaps it was the memory of a beloved dog, lost years ago, that resurfaced in these quiet moments. A yearning for that uncomplicated, unconditional affection. Driving with no particular destination, a modest sign by the side of the road caught his eye. City Animal Shelter. Why not? A voice inside him whispered. Maybe just looking would be therapeutic. He parked his car a few blocks away, pulled his beanie down, put on his sunglasses, hoping to blend in. As he stepped through the shelter door, he was met with the expected cacophony of barks and meows. The air held the familiar, sharp scent of disinfectant. Young volunteers and a few potential adopters clustered around the kennels, holding energetic puppies and playful kittens. The energy was high, hopeful, but concentrated mostly around the young and the conventionally cute. Keanu bypassed the initial flurry, walking towards the quieter back sections. This was where the older, larger dogs were housed. He paused before each kennel, looking carefully at the occupants. Hope, anticipation, sometimes deep weariness reflected in their eyes. Most approached the bars eagerly, tails wagging, seeking attention. But Keanu kept walking, searching for something he couldn't quite define. And then he saw him. In one of the last kennels, tucked away in a less lit corner, lay a medium to large mixed breed, perhaps some Labrador, some shepherd in his lineage. Curled up quietly, his fur was dull, lacking luster, and the fur around his muzzle was distinctly gray. He was clearly an older dog. Maybe 7, maybe 10, maybe more. He lay with his gaze unfocused, seemingly indifferent to the passerby. There was a deep, tired sadness in his eyes. Keanu noticed he favored his left hind leg slightly, an almost imperceptible limp, perhaps the ghost of an old injury. Unlike the other dogs clamoring for attention, this one seemed resigned, almost as if he'd given up hope. Keanu stopped in front of the kennel. This quiet resignation, this profound weariness in contrast to the hopeful chaos nearby, resonated with something deep inside him. He crouched down slowly, resting his arms on his knees, simply watching. The dog lifted his head slightly, registered Keanu's presence with a flick of his ears, but didn't move. They just looked at each other for a moment across the wire mesh. Keanu saw intelligence in the dog's deep brown eyes, a history, and perhaps a broken trust. "Hey there, friend," Keanu murmured softly. The dog didn't react, just continued watching him steadily. Keanu slowly extended his fingers towards the kennel mesh. The dog didn't flinch or back away. They stayed like that for several minutes, a silent communion. A young volunteer noticed Keanu. "Is that one catching your eye, sir?" she asked kindly. Keanu nodded towards the older dog. "What's his story?" The volunteer sighed softly. "Ah, that's Buddy. Poor guy. We estimate he's around 8 or 9. Found wandering as a stray a few months back. Pretty underweight. He had a microchip, but the registered owner passed away years ago. Seems like he wasn't well cared for after that, or maybe just abandoned. He's very calm. Keeps to himself, but..." She hesitated. "Because he's older, a mixed breed, and has that slight limp, nobody really gives him a second look. Most people want puppies." Keanu nodded slowly. "Can I spend some time with him? Do you have a visiting area?" The volunteer looked surprised but pleased. "Of course! But fair warning, he's very shy, might not interact much." They carefully leashed Buddy, who moved stiffly but without protest, and led him to a small, fenced-in yard behind the main building. The volunteer left them alone. Buddy immediately went to a far corner, sniffing the ground cautiously. Keanu didn't push. He went to the opposite corner, sat down on the damp grass, leaning his back against the fence. He just waited, patient and still. He didn't call the dog, didn't make sudden movements. He simply shared the space. Minutes stretched into what felt like a long time. Buddy, perhaps sensing no threat, eventually stopped his nervous sniffing and looked over at Keanu. He tilted his head slightly. Keanu remained still. Finally, Buddy took a few hesitant steps towards him, stopping several feet away. He lowered his head slightly, sniffing the air in Keanu's direction. Keanu still didn't move. Buddy took another tentative step, then another. He circled Keanu slowly, then came closer and gently sniffed Keanu's outstretched, still hand. Keanu held his breath. Buddy licked his fingers once, briefly, then stepped back slightly, sitting down nearby but not too close. It was a small gesture, but felt monumental. Keanu began speaking in a very low, calm voice. "Hey, buddy, you've had a rough time, haven't you? I get it." His voice was soft, soothing. Buddy turned his ears towards him. Keanu continued talking quietly, about nothing in particular. The weather, the quiet yard, the feel of the damp grass. Buddy seemed to relax slightly at the sound of his calm voice. After several more minutes, Keanu slowly extended his hand again, palm up. This time, Buddy didn't hesitate as much. He leaned forward and gently nudged Keanu's hand with his nose. Then unexpectedly, he rested his heavy head on Keanu's knee. Keanu froze, surprised by the sudden trust. He slowly brought his hand up and gently stroked the dog's head, scratching softly behind his ears. Buddy closed his eyes and let out a soft sigh, leaning into the touch as if starved for gentle contact. Keanu felt a slight tremor run through the dog's body. Not of fear this time, perhaps relief. They sat like that for nearly an hour. When the volunteer came to the gate, she stopped, amazed at the sight. Buddy, head peacefully resting on Keanu's lap. Keanu gently stroking his fur. "Wow," she whispered. "I've never seen him connect with anyone like that." Keanu looked up. "I think we found each other," he said quietly. He stood up slowly. Buddy stood with him, staying close, nudging his leg. The decision was made. I'd like to adopt him. The adoption process took some time as the shelter was nearing closing. Forms were filled out, Keanu's identity confirmed, to the quiet astonishment of the staff. Shelter rules explained. Keanu made a generous donation beyond the adoption fee and bought the highest quality leash, collar, food bowls, and the most comfortable orthopedic bed he could find. When the paperwork was done, he clipped the new leash onto Buddy's collar. Buddy, as if understanding, walked calmly beside him towards the exit, leaving the cacophony of the shelter behind for perhaps the first time in a long while. He didn't hesitate getting into Keanu's car, settling quietly on the back seat, looking out the window as they drove away. Keanu's Los Angeles home was a quiet refuge, surrounded by trees, worlds away from the shelter. When Buddy stepped out of the car, he seemed hesitant at first, sniffing the new air cautiously. Keanu opened the door. "This is home now, Buddy." Buddy entered slowly, exploring each room methodically. New smells, soft rugs, quiet spaces. He seemed a little overwhelmed, but not scared. After a thorough investigation, he found the soft rug in front of the fireplace in the living room, circled twice and lay down with a deep sigh. It was as if he knew finally he could rest. The first few weeks were an adjustment period. Keanu was patient. He learned Buddy was startled by loud noises. A dropped pan, a loud scene from a movie on TV would send him scrambling for cover under a table. Keanu kept the house quiet, spoke softly, avoided sudden movements. He established a gentle routine. Quiet walks early in the morning and late in the evening, regular meal times, lots of quiet companionship. When Keanu was home, he'd often sit and read, and Buddy would eventually come lie down near his feet. One night, a nearby neighbor set off unexpected fireworks. Buddy panicked, trembling violently, trying to hide in the smallest corner he could find. Keanu didn't try to force him out. He simply sat on the floor near Buddy's hiding spot, speaking calmly, reassuringly, until the noises stopped. He stayed there until Buddy slowly crept out, still shaking. Keanu gently petted him. "It's over, friend. You're safe here." That night, Buddy chose to sleep on the rug at the foot of Keanu's bed, instead of his own dog bed across the room, a silent acknowledgement of trust. As Buddy's trust grew, his personality began to emerge from beneath the layers of sadness and neglect. The indifferent, resigned dog from the shelter was disappearing, replaced by a quiet, affectionate, and occasionally even playful companion. Keanu would be greeted at the door not just with a look, but with a slow, tentative tail wag that gradually became more enthusiastic. On walks, Buddy started showing more interest in his surroundings, sniffing trees, watching squirrels with curiosity. He became Keanu's shadow when he was home, following him quietly from room to room, content just to be near. When Keanu sat in his study reading scripts or playing his bass guitar softly, Buddy would lie at his feet, occasionally lifting his head as if listening intently. Keanu found himself talking to Buddy, sharing thoughts about his day, lines from a script, worries about a project. Buddy was a perfect listener, offering only quiet presence and unwavering, non-judgmental companionship. One sunny weekend afternoon, Keanu found an old, slightly deflated tennis ball in the garage. He tossed it gently towards Buddy in the yard. Buddy looked at the ball, then at Keanu, then back at the ball. Hesitantly, he trotted over, nudged it with his nose, then picked it up awkwardly in his mouth. He walked back slowly, dropped the ball near Keanu's feet, and looked up, tail giving a hopeful thump-thump on the grass. Keanu laughed aloud. "Wow, buddy, you've still got it in you." He threw the ball again, not too far because of Buddy's leg. They played fetch for almost an hour, Buddy's initial stiffness giving way to visible joy, his tail wagging constantly. Keanu felt a lightness he hadn't felt in a long time. Buddy became more than just a pet. He was a confidant, a silent source of comfort. In moments when Keanu felt the weight of his public life or brooded over past losses, Buddy would somehow sense it, nudging his hand with his nose or simply resting his head on Keanu's knee, offering a simple, profound connection that needed no words. Months turned into seasons. Buddy blossomed. His coat grew thicker and shinier. His limp was less pronounced with good food and care. But most noticeably, the deep sadness in his eyes had been replaced by a calm contentment. He was no longer the abandoned, overlooked shelter dog. He was a beloved family member, secure in the knowledge he was loved and safe. Keanu had also transformed. The quiet in his house no longer felt like emptiness. It was filled with Buddy's peaceful presence. The simple routine of walks, feeding times, quiet evenings together provided an anchor, a sense of normalcy often missing in his whirlwind life. He realized Buddy had given him a gift far greater than companionship. He had given him a reason to slow down, to be present, to appreciate the profound healing power of simple, unconditional love. One evening, they sat together in the garden watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and purple. Buddy lay peacefully at Keanu's feet, occasionally sighing contentedly. Keanu gently stroked his soft fur, reflecting on their journey. He had gone to the shelter that day seeking something. An escape? A connection? He hadn't known. But in choosing Buddy, the old, imperfect, overlooked dog, he had found exactly what he needed. Buddy had reminded him of the value of patience, the importance of second chances, the quiet dignity of resilience, and the deep comfort of unwavering loyalty. Perhaps, Keanu thought, society is too quick to discard the old, the damaged, the ones that don't fit the mold. We chase youth, perfection, novelty. But Buddy had shown him the immense wisdom, the deep capacity for love, and the quiet strength that often lies hidden in those who have weathered life's storms. Giving Buddy a second chance hadn't just saved the dog. In many ways, it had helped heal parts of Keanu himself. He smiled. The greatest successes weren't always measured in box office numbers or accolades, but in the quiet moments of connection, in the gentle weight of a trusting head on your knee. This story shows how heavy silence can sometimes be, but also what a gentle hand offered in kindness can change. What buddy inside you is waiting for a second chance? Or have you been the Keanu offering that chance to a soul in need? Let's share these heartwarming moments of connection and hope in the comments below. If this story touched your heart too, help more people hear these kinds of sincere stories by liking, sharing, and subscribing.